Hi guys, my name is Sophie and today I'm going to show you how to DIY your own wedding table numbers. I'm excited to show you the whole process of making them, especially because these ones will be my own wedding table numbers. So I'll show you the whole process from start to finish, which materials I buy, and how I use the Cricut to make them. So I'm off to Lowe's to pick up some of the supplies I need to make the table numbers, such as paint, clear coat, and then I like to use the sponges rather than paint brushes for doing like a solid back acrylic. It just is a little bit cleaner and doesn't get all over the edges as bad. So there's two ways of picking paint too. I really like Lowe's because the paint there, the Valspar brand, it's really thick and you only need like 2 coats plus a clear coat, and it's just been like the best quality that I've seen so far for paint, and they make it really easy to pick your colors. You can either walk in and pick a color from the swatches and give it to the person to mix, or you can look online, which is what I did. I went to valspar.com and typed in the color that I'm trying to look for, and I wrote down the color code for that. So I'll just walk in and tell the guy which color I need. I ended up changing colors of what I initially planned for, but I found this deep clay red color that is so pretty, and it's up my alley with like the terracotta, pink, reddish, orangey kind of colors. Since my wedding's in November, I'm really wanting it to feel like fall. And then I got the clear coat I use, which is polyacrylic by Minwax. I have it linked in my Amazon storefront, which is actually like half the price than compared to Lowe's. So check that out. And then I got a whole bunch of these little sponge brushes. I prefer to use these over paint brushes when I'm doing like a solid back table number or sign, just because it ends up being a little bit cleaner and the edges don't get so messy. So that's what I got for this time. I also got a few other colors that I might use for like a welcome sign, but this one's called Cookie Dough. It's like a nice creamy color. And then this is deep twilight blue for a large sign order I have to start working on next week. But that's what I got, and now we're gonna head into Michael's. So this is the Cricut vinyl I get. I love the platinum color, and then the strong grip. My favorite vinyl is the Cricut Premium Vinyl Texture Metallic in the platinum color. The gold is pretty, but this one's more like a lighter champagne kind of gold. The other one's darker, but this is my favorite, and I always use it on most of my signs. And I also got the strong grip transfer tape. If you get the regular transfer tape, it doesn't transfer very easy. It doesn't stick to it. So if you get a regular vinyl, like just plain white, then do the regular transfer tape. But if you do something that is textured or thicker, like this one or the sparkly vinyl that they have, then you'll definitely want strong grip. While the Cricut software boots up, I'm going to remove just one side of the film protecting the acrylic and keep the other on while I work to avoid scratching it, since it's really delicate. Start by creating the shape of the sign I'm making. So for this one, it is 5 by 7, so I'm going to change this to 5 by 7 and make it a lighter color so it's a little bit easier to see. So that'll be like the actual size of the acrylic. And then I'm going to insert 2 different text boxes. The first one will be the word table, since I'm going to have it say table, and then 1, 2, 3, and so on. I prefer to use the Avenir font. Oops. I feel like it's very clean and simple. Shrink it down, and then I like to just change the letter space to either 2 or 3. So then I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Oops. And center that. So it'll go about there on it when I cut it out. And I'm going to insert the second text box for the number here. Typically, I use this one cursive font to make it a little bit more foo-foo, I guess. But for my table numbers, I want to do something a little more simple. So I'm going to also do the avenir for this and make it bigger. I like to double check too that the size will fit if I do a 2-digit number. So I'm just going to do 15 for now and kind of make sure it'll fit. Because if this was too big and then it ends up going off the number, it'd kind of be a bummer to have different sized fonts. So I'm going to make sure that looks good. Delete out the double digit and then get rid of the background. So this is literally all that I'm cutting. When I'm normally doing a large batch, I will just kind of copy and paste this and do as many table numbers as I plan to make, so that I'm not like re-putting it through the Cricut each time. But for now, I'm just going to make one table number to show you guys. We'll click Make, Any Material, scooch that over just a tad. And I turn the dial on my Cricut to custom. So I already have this saved as one of my favorites, which is the premium vinyl textured metallic. But if you're doing anything else, you could go through here and click which specific material you're doing. So let's see, like if you're doing vinyl, you want to make sure you pick the exact one that you're planning to use, like glitter, premium, textured, etc. I'm going to click that and I'll show you guys the machine. Once you've prepped everything in Cricut, you're going to load the mat into the Cricut machine and make sure the dial is set to the material you're using. So I have it set to custom since I'm doing the textured metallic vinyl. And then you'll wait, press the little Cricut button in the middle, and it'll start cutting out your shapes. So now that it's finished cutting, I'm going to cut out just the table and the one to avoid wasting any material. So I'll save those extra scraps for another project or the other numbers. I'm going to weed out the letters by first peeling off the top layer of vinyl slowly to avoid having any letters or numbers fly off. And then I'll use the weeding tool to pick out the inside of each one. Lastly, you'll just want to cut the two sections apart so that they are no longer one piece. On the video because the lines are light, but I use my grid mat to line everything up and make sure it's straight and centered. But if you need to remove that craft paper on the back side, you can, so that's fully see-through. And then I'm going to take my strong grip transfer tape and the squeegee tool to transfer the vinyl to my acrylic sheet. So this step is completely optional, but you do need a Sharpie oil-based paint pen with the extra fine tip. It's the little flare that I add to my table numbers, but I designed the olive leaves on my iPad Pro and then printed it out, but you could even print any pattern you find on the internet or Pinterest that you really like. And I'm going to flip the acrylic over to the back side and actually draw the design on the back, so it'll be reversed, if that makes sense. And then the paint will go directly over the illustration. When you start painting the backside, make sure that the vinyl is face down, and you'll want to apply a really thin coat for that first layer of paint. When you get to the edges, I try to flick the brush in an upward motion so that there's less paint getting on the edges, because it gets kind of goopy and harder to clean up at the end. But you'll just want to do one thin coat for the first layer and then wait about 30 minutes to an hour to apply the second coat. Once my 2 coats of paint plus the clear coat are dry, I go through with rubbing alcohol and a microfiber cloth and clean up the edges.